cheers to another episode of the Weinnotes Podcast. I'm your guide, AJ Weinzettel, on this journey of stories showcasing the people behind the wonderful world of wine, where we dive into conversations ranging from terroir, viticulture, to favorite music, superpowers, and more. Please enjoy this episode of the Weinnotes Podcast. Paul, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
AJ, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on it.
Yeah, I remember the Oregon Chardonnay celebration in 2023.
Yeah.
We were kind of sitting at a table, and you were so excited about the indie wine mixer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? What is that? And you pulled out your phone, and you're like, look, I got the list right here. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and what a list it was, right?
It was an amazing list.
I'm thrilled to be a part of this kind of emerging community. And it's nothing new in the grand scheme of wine, especially Willamette Valley wine, Oregon wine, because there's always been, this is a community that it's a region that fosters this kind of community. There's so much neighborliness, there's so much love. So it's natural that all these young small producers that are given the fuel to do their craft are going to get together and network and share stories and fuel each other. And it's one of the best parts of my professional life now is that I get to be a part of this indie kind of community. Call it indie, call it all, or just call it the Oregon wine scene.
Right. It is quite exciting. Shall I start with a little bit of a blind wine?
I love a blind tasting, so yes. I'm delighted to try.
All right. Well, as you pointed out before we recorded, I brought you a white wine, of course. I think I might be crucified a little bit if I didn't.
Not by me.
Well, I know that, white wine is your passion.
Yeah.
And I always try to, find some sort of connection. I wouldn't necessarily say I have a great connection here, but I think that there's definitely a passion here that's in the blind wine. And, that is where really what I wanted to call out was you have such an exuberance and an excitement for wine in the community. And I really want to highlight that quite a bit today.
Thanks for saying so. I'm honored to know that people have taken notice of that. I think it comes the natural byproduct of just my energy and my craftsmanship, and then just being an extrovert, somebody that loves, being, a part of a community like this.
Right.
But I love all things about it. And yes, thank you for bringing white wine. My sniffer is giving me Riesling.
I wonder.
On this, yeah. I do love red wine too. It was Pinot Noir that drove us out here. I moved here from Connecticut because of Oregon Pinot, but absolutely, my craft, my passion is definitely focused on white wines these days. I make a little bit of red, and I'm very proud of those red wines, but the entire mission is in the white wine field here.
Yes, and that's a beautiful thing. Oregon, as you've kind of talked about, Oregon is so diverse in what it can actually produce.
Yeah.
And we just need to hear that more.
I think so. And if I look back on a legacy that I'm lucky enough to make over the course of my career, and one of the things I'm able to accomplish is just highlighting these underrepresented varieties a little bit more, and helping other people maybe build the courage to plant things like Riesling, plant things like Chenin Blanc, plant more Gewürztraminer here, and then make more of those wines, then that'll be a humongous success for me. And I'll be fulfilled as long as I can keep making them. Lucky for me, there are plantings, even if they are rare.
Yes.
Undoubtedly, Pinot Noir is what our region is known for, and justly so. These wines are incredible. And I feel this tremendous gratitude to Pinot Noir for being the grape that highlighted our region and brought knowledge about Willamette Valley and how much intense quality there can be here in all the different microclimates and all the various geological terroir. But I think it's time that we branch out a little bit, and because a cool region like this with the kind of climate we've got, and the Pinot Noir is not the only grape that shows terroir. I think personally that Riesling does just as good a job of showing terroir as things like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
This is delicious, by the way.
I'm glad that you like. And, yes, you're absolutely correct. It's a Riesling. I almost brought a Chenin Blanc just because I know how much you love Chenin Blanc. But I was like, I don't know. Riesling seems just a little bit more closer and dear to your heart. So that's why.
Riesling is the core of my heart right now. I have been falling in love with Chenin Blanc more and more, and it's become a really important variety for us to craft in the winery. But Riesling is it. If I had to choose one thing to make and everything else was ruled out, it would be Riesling. In 2023, it was our biggest vintage yet, and more than double the production size of Riesling in total. I made more than twice as much Riesling compared to any other variety. Like I think I pressed 790 gallons of Riesling. The next highest was like 350 from like Chardonnay.
Right.
But we got a chance to make Riesling from 4 different AVAs, 4 different vineyards. Every one of them had a markedly like different geology and of course climate, a microclimate. And they were all vinified separately. So now I get to play with the idea of blending these things or bottling them as single vineyard wines, and that's magic. Yeah, Riesling is so beautiful in all the regions that it grows well in the world. I really love Alsace wines. I'm in love with German wines, but I think that Willamette Valley could easily be among these great regions that we talk about when we talk about Riesling. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And we'll get there.
Yeah.
But let's go back.
Sure.
There seemed to be like a book that really kind of inspired you, touched you a little bit, kind of growing up, was The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury.
That's right, yeah.
What was it about that book that just like sparked a fire or ignited that fire inside of you?
First, I think that people who know me really well know that I'm like a big nerd when it comes to fantasy, science fiction. I live in a fantasy realm. My brain is elsewhere. Like the fact that I have to abide by day-to-day rituals in the real world is it's sometimes second to my participation in the fantasy realm. But I've always been inspired by amazing stories, and especially stories that are very well told, that are able to just let us walk away from reality for a little bit and just immerse ourselves in that creativity and that and that world of love. Ray Bradbury, masterful writer,
of course,
somebody who just does so well with a unique writing style and then just articulates so well a range of sci-fi concepts, and with his language really makes it endearing and approachable, and I think a range of readers really fall in love with his work. But Martian Chronicles is one that is just what a tale. For anyone who's not familiar, Martian Chronicles is a book of short stories that all are then pieced together in one book. Every single story is different. Every one contains different characters, is on a different timeline, and that they all are on a common theme, which is adventure and colonization. But if you read the entire book, start to finish, every single one of these short stories will go in order, and it begins with the first vessels ever to approach Mars, human vessels to approach Mars. And by the end of the book, you're talking about complete colonization. And so it's this amazing start to finish tale. Every one of those short stories is enjoyable on its own, freestanding, but put together, they show off a real significant body of work, and just to show, representing how detailed his work really is. Love that. There's so much amazing fiction out there that I would love to recommend if anybody wants to hit me up and ask other recommendations. But that's one that I think is amazing, especially because these days I write a lot. I write short fiction. I've been a fiction writer for as long as I've been able to. And for Satyr Fire, that's infused into my label. I write one short story, fantasy fiction, for every wine, and I'm kind of trying to emulate that same design. Right now, we're midway, or even early in the early phases of creating this larger work. But that's the idea: is eventually, when I have enough work to constitute a book of short stories, it'll be that same kind of thing where the stories, in chronological order, will tell an overarching tale. Hopefully every one of them is enjoyable. As one of my members uncorks a wine, I love hearing back from my customers who receive their box and receive the wines that go with them, and they send me a little video or just let me know that when they uncorked that bottle with their loved ones, they read the story aloud with the group. Every one of them hopefully has a meaningful experience with the wine, enjoyable on its own, but for the constant reader, there will be a tale that goes on and on that you get to follow as you collect.
As you're talking about all this, the thing that I'm envisioning in my head, like how you have poem readings at a cafe or something. Yeah. I mean, I could see a release party where you're, talking about the wine and then just reading the story.
Yeah, I absolutely. I've always been a proponent for big open mic sessions, fiction readings, poetry readings, bringing in live music.
Right.
Put wine in everyone's cups, so there's revelry involved too. It's awesome. But yeah, for me, we're early in the stages of our company, and we have big dreams. But I absolutely, when I dream about the final form of Satyr Fire and the little tasting room that I get to have in the forest somewhere, there's definitely, like, when somebody goes to book a reservation, one of the experiences is going to be like, seating with the winemaker for a story time. Have somebody go around, make sure everyone's cups remain full, and I would love to just like sit there and read a few stories if people are willing to sit still and listen to them.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
it's quite unique.
I think so.
To be able to do something like that.
I think you have to be unique in this world. I think every wine tells a story. Every brand has its own story, and in order to be, there's so many options for people, and especially in our region, there's so many amazing options. Like I'm a believer that you can wander into almost any wine house out here in Willamette Valley or Oregon in general, and have wonderful wines, And
right.
so when you have that much, I hate to call it competition because, like I was talking about this community we've got, but when you have that many options, you really need a significant story to set your work apart from what everyone else is doing. And so, when I think it's easy because I just, like I said before, have a kind of a creative vision behind everything. But it's when I have one of these wild ideas like that,
right?
It's not so outlandish to think, we'll do that.
It's not really. I mean, you could just, have a nice little intimate sitting just right here.
Yeah, I think that I need to get more of those kind of things on the books. I also want to begin recording versions that I orate and putting them on social media or putting them on the website. Right. As archives on the webpage eventually.
That would be amazing. Do you have like the final product? Is it, I don't know how long the short stories are.
Yeah.
But are you envisioning like the final product of being like 500 pages, 1,000 pages? I mean,
I think that it'll be ongoing, right? Life is long, and I think I have the opportunity to write a lot. And right now I release at least 6 stories a year, right? Because I release 3 new wines in the fall and 3 new wines in the spring.
Right.
And each one of those has a story. I'm just getting ready to release Satyr Fire stories 17, 18, and 19 in May. And, if I'm probably halfway there to getting the first consistent book in order, I imagine it'll be like a briefer thing, an easier read, probably like 250 to 350 words, but that's not the end by any means. We'll keep it going and maybe make longer things in the future. Who knows? I'm a believer that artists in general, whether you're any medium that you're working with, and I do believe, winemaking is a perfect marriage of art and science, but I'm a believer that artists should be able to do whatever the hell they want. And,
exactly.
Abide by an editor, help people let you refine your process, but start from a perspective of I'm going to do me, and that's going to be what sparks the fire that gets us going to make something unique.
That's what I do here.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I answer to nobody, and I get to do whatever the heck I want to do.
Autonomy. It's amazing. It's what we should all strive for. Maybe not everyone, but that's what I would strive for. It's just waking up every day and thinking to myself, I can do anything, and not having pressure from any one angle that inhibits me from doing so, right?
I agree. Shall we dive into one of your wines?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay.
Let's start with a baby, brand new wine, Forager's Reward. I'm just releasing. This is actually coming out with my allocation in May.
Okay.
Just recently bottled, but I've been tasting it and tampering with it, and I think it's already entering a really good spot.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is an exciting one that I'm pleased with so far, and it's taken a lot of our energy so far. In our portfolio of wines, I kind of look at it in 2 categories, not tiers, but categories of myriad and articulate. And for me, articulates are the single vineyard, single variety, expression of terroir. And so the wine next to it here, Crystal Dagger, 100% from one vineyard in Eola Amity Hills, 100% Riesling, right? That's an articulate. Myriad, on the other hand, is a blend of whatever we want it to be. It could be a blend of varieties, it could be a blend of vineyards, vintages, anything. And so I love the experimental craftsmanship that you get to employ when you do a myriad wine. But this is a blend inspired by Alsace, a region I mentioned before that really has a dear spot in my heart. Alsace, France, where some of the best Rieslings, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blancs come from. Nice cool region in between a couple of mountains there. But they make wines there called Edelsweiker. And often when my wife and I visited Alsace, we would go and, we were there exploring the Grand Cru. We were exploring, meeting with wineries who were like 13th generation, perfecting their craft, vineyards that were planted in the 1300s by monks,
right.
and had been established Grand Cru for that variety for a long time. But we became enamored with these wines that we were served at lunch every day. We went to La Stube and gotten bratwursts or tarte flambe, and they bring you out like an unmarked bottle in like a carafe,
Right.
And you say, who? My curious mind is like, who produced this? So what's the blend? Like, it's from the region,
Right.
And they like dance away and they make it seem like a hermit wheeled a barrel over the hill that morning, and here you go. But it's a blend of white wine, all the noble varieties of the region, and this one is a blend of 50% Auxerrois, 20% Pinot Gris, 15% Pinot Blanc, and 15% Riesling. So those are all great varieties that you would find at home in Alsace. And so, a blend of those. It started with, they were all vinified separately. I had 21 barrels of those varieties to begin with, and we went through 3 different blending trials to figure out the perfect 8-barrel blend there,
right.
to make 200 cases, and that's how we ended up.
I adore this wine. I love how the acidity backbone is just so strong, and it's there, and it. And then just, the fruit that's there too. I mean, everything. I was going to ask you, is there a little bit of Chenin Blanc in this? But obviously I was wrong.
Not in this one.
Yeah.
I've done that in the past, but it's a non-Alsace variety, so I had to restrain myself from adding the Chenin this year.
I never would have guessed that there was Pinot Gris in it at all, because I don't get that at all. And
that's what we found with the Gris here, was that it was kind of flesh. I have a love-hate relationship with Gris. I guess it's not, I don't really hate Gris. It's just like, I have a love or meh relationship with Gris.
Right.
There are so many like very kind of inert, solitary, one-dimensional Pinot Gris out there. But I find that in a blend like this, it really just adds some heart, adds some flesh to the bones on a wine, where like the Riesling can really carry the acidity in a long, vertical way. The Auxerrois in this case just brought a softness and this really beautiful, like kind of creamy, kind of decadent floral energy with a little bit of spice to the wine. And Gris was, I think without the Gris, it was just kind of risked being a little bit too sharp, and the Gris helped, flesh things out. Yeah.
And Auxerrois, I have to say, I am totally ignorant of that grape variety.
I put it on the label. I'm going to get so many questions as I pour this wine around pop-ups and things like, what is Auxerrois? And the first time I read it, I certainly mispronounced it, but it's spelled Auxerrois, so not phonetically Auxerrois, but that's how they pronounce it. It's a Pinot-esque variety. It forms its clusters in the same way that Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, Pinot Gris do.
Right.
It grows in similar climate conditions, requiring a similar number of growing degree days as the other grapes. So it makes sense that it grows well in a region like ours. In Alsace, actually, while I was there, in a lot of old world, they're so strict about their blending, about what they can do. Like they're extremely. There's very little you can get away with, even as far as what you're allowed to grow and then how you blend it, right? But I was tasting in the cellar of some of these, of Mader, tasting their Grand Cru, and he was pouring me some of his Pinot Blanc. Marked, label just says vintage Pinot Blanc.
Right.
And he's like, this is about 70% Auxerrois. I'm like, what? Like, how do you get away with that here? And he said the consortium came together and they allowed because these two grapes meld so well together, Pinot Blanc throughout their history, hundreds of years, just proved to blend magically with Auxerrois, that they just said, you're allowed to do this in any form and call it whatever you would like, as long as it's either Pinot Blanc or Auxerrois.
Right.
They opt for Pinot Blanc. But that blew my mind because individually, Auxerrois on its own tastes nothing like Pinot Blanc on its own. It's just that they blend so well together that
interesting
creates that magic. And for us, it's a rare thing to find here in Oregon for sure. There's only 2 vineyards in all of Oregon that have Auxerrois planted, and they're near each other: Zenith Vineyard and Bjornson Vineyard. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, both Eola Amity Hills.
Right.
I sourced this one from Zenith. Lucky enough to get those grapes last year, and I'm contracted to get them again this year. So I'm really excited to make more Asawa.
So I have a podcast coming up with Bjornson in a few weeks, and they seem to have so many interesting varieties out there. And I'm going to mispronounce this next grape variety.
Gooey Blanc.
Thank you.
That's a talking point for them right now. Yeah, Gooey Blanc. Yeah, it sounds.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for pronouncing that, because I was like, I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how that's spelled. I've only heard them say it, but
it's Gouais. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, my notes, I'll do GUI
because they're the only ones with that planted.
Right.
Which is I love. So that's where I make my wines. Is Bjornson. I do my custom crush over there. Scott, the head winemaker, is a fantastic ally, mentoring at times, and just, running an amazing ship over there that I get to take part in. And then Mark and Patty, which has been so gracious with their home, letting me in to make the wines there. But they are the kind of growers I kind of referenced earlier that I adore. They're so experimental with their plantings. They, of course, have a great deal of Pinot Noir planted, but they're planting, Gouais Blanc. They're planting Cabernet Franc, Chenin Blanc, of course, Asawa, and they're kind of unafraid with that. They know what their vision is, and they're just going with it.
There's that freedom again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The artwork. I mean, besides being a storyteller, you're also an artist.
Yeah. Certainly, yeah. So that's the foundation of me, and thus the foundation of the brand is that I've certified that every new wine that I ever release will bear a different name. It will have a different piece of artwork that I've hand drawn or that my wife has on the label, and that I'll write that short story to go with each wine. And it gets to the point where it's a lot of work, but the way I look at that is, as I'm a lifelong artist, and writing has been a part of me for as long as I could really, put together, read. I'm an avid reader, and that turned me into a writer, I think, and that's what I have a degree in. So these are just pillars of my personality, but with a career in wine now that spans almost 15 years in all different aspects, it's easy to get busy with life and then look back on a year and realize I didn't do any of my other passions at all this year. I haven't written a word, outside of an email, and I haven't put pen to paper or a brush to canvas at all. And so with the immersion of Satyr Fire that I launched in 2019, guaranteeing not only to my customers but also to myself that I would do this act for every wine that we make, has forced me to continue creating. And that's awesome. So if I make 9 new wines, I got to draw 9 pictures and write 9 stories. In my background, as long as I can even remember being alive, I've been making art, whether it was scribbles and illustrations and drawing monsters and stuff back when I was young. Kind of got more into classic photorealistic, colored pencil and graphite work and charcoal, and then in college kind of time frame really got into oil painting. But for my labels, it's funny, I never touched watercolor when I was younger, but for the labels, I found that watercolor base married with pen and ink over it translated very well to the labels for kind of that graphic image. So that's what I do. Everything is either just pen and ink, like on the Crystal Dagger, that's just black and white, but the Forager's Reward here was a detailed watercolor painting at the start, and then with pen over it to create the depth and the textures and stuff like that.
That's cool. And this past summer when you were at the Neskowin event, I asked you, I'm like, how did you get these digitalized?
Yeah.
And it still just kind of blows my mind. So refresh my memory. What is the process to go from canvas to digital to get these onto your bottles?
I mean, in truth, I just we wait for a sunny day. My wife takes them out into the yard and shoots them with her camera. That's good enough. She's an incredible photographer to start, but we've also done this a few times now. I've experimented with everything from high professional scans, professional photography, but I find that it comes out perfectly well if we just photograph it ourselves. And so I have a graphic designer that helped me create the label from the sketches that I did. I kind of, when it comes down to these panels, which are meant to appear a little bit like a graphic novel or comic book, these 3 separate panels. One holds the logo, one holds the name of the wine, and then the other one is that rotating piece that always has a different piece of art in it. I kind of laid that out for him. He created this template, and now each time we do a new label, we take that beautiful image, I send that image over to the graphic designer, and he just rebuilds the new label from the template that he's created. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That is something. My daughter.
Yeah.
She freaking loves like doing character sketches.
Yeah.
And she uses Procreate, on the iPad to do it. And it's just amazing what she does. I mean,
Procreate's a great tool. My wife uses that a lot. We're both artists, and she does a little bit more digital art than I. That's why I outsourced this graphic stuff. I've never been at all talented with graphic design. I still to this day, I commission, if you look at my website, I have images that are commissioned from other artists. I love supporting the art community also, and bringing that as a part of our brand. But it's incredible what people do with the stylus and a tablet these days. It's such magical art. Yeah,
it is. What advice do you give like a 15-year-old that has this passion to like keep that going in life? I mean, because it would just kind of break my heart if she stopped it.
Exactly. Like before I answer that question directly, I'll mention it's like my parents and people that know me for years, going back to like high school or in college, know that I've been having for years I tried desperately to just become a professional artist. I would have different gallery shows booked every month. I would have my oil paintings up for $1,000, and I might sell one a month or something like that. But it was like after a few years of doing this, it was like, this is not sustainable. And that's right. My dad jokes with me now. I don't get paid for my art, but now I sell a lot of wine, and my dad says, you finally forced everyone to buy your art. Because every bottle wears a different one. But I guess what I'm trying to say with that message is that whether or not it becomes the thing that you do as a career, or that that you rely on for your livelihood, it becomes a part of you, which is the more important thing.
Exactly.
You can't quit, because that creative urge is a part of your being and your personality. The advice that I would give is to maintain a balance of the formal education and the things that mentors and professional artists tell you to do, while always continuing to immerse yourself and indulging in the things that just make you happy as an artist. And so just as an example, like, if you love just doing caricatures or just scribbles or abstract art or anything, any medium, do that. Like, spend 50% of your time just doing that, no matter what any of your mentors say. Do that because it makes your heart happy, just to like put that stuff down on paper and then look back and see it. But it is also important to continue to evolve your craft, to do that kind of like the fundamental routine things that that the masters did. Pablo Picasso painted better than Rembrandt as far as his realism, and eventually became known as like this artist who did this incredible, abstract work that he's so famous for. And he didn't get the opportunity to really articulate himself freely in the artistic world until he had already mastered some of like the smaller details and like the technical abilities. And so even if you're spending 50% of your time doing the thing that makes you really happy, still sit down and do those, like the still life drawings, the life drawing classes and stuff like that, and experiment with different mediums. If you love to do watercolor, try oils. If you love to do pen and ink, try watercolor. Just mix it up. So keep yourself engaged. And the thing about art, no matter what you create, you'll always just please yourself. You'll always surprise yourself with what you're able to make, and that's the best thing about art. That
is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You said that you moved out here from Connecticut.
Yeah.
And you've had the ability to work with some amazing people.
I have been very, very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. How did it come about, getting the job at a lit that ended up, going to Rose and Arrow?
Yeah. And that was, the brief history of all that was, I was from Connecticut, where I worked in retail, managing retail sales, and then also, working a little bit in like wholesale distribution. But understanding that, but also understanding that as I cultivated this passion for wine, that there was only so much I was going to be able to do over there on the East Coast, right? And I was overcome with this urge just to be in a wine region, to move to a place where I could just, fall into this completely. And so coming out here, the first and most important thing was the production. I think it was like, we moved out here without any jobs lined up, and so we were just kind of, I was applying for everything from wine club manager to tasting room manager to marketing director, nobody had this respect for the retail experience that I had coming from Connecticut.
Right.
But what I ended up with was a harvest position at Duck Pond Cellars. So I spent the first couple of years out here getting immersed in all different areas of the winery. I was, working production when harvest was over. I was working in the tasting room. I was I was lucky enough to do every little part of wine business. I was working with the accounting team to sort invoices, which led to it's still one of the things I look back on most fondly. I was just able to spend weeks just sorting invoices going back 20 years.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Realizing, wow, there's a lot of vendors that need to pay. But then realizing okay, well, you're making wine here. It seems like this magical thing, but you still got to pay to get the termites removed, and you still have to bring out looking out all the vineyard costs and the sprayer and everything like that.
Right.
Down to just purchasing glassware and doing payroll. From there I enjoyed this immersive kind of cellar winemaking position, full winery position, and I was lucky enough to be able to skate for a year and a half or 2 years without making a ton of money. But after a little while, I needed to get back into a management role and do hospitality, because at that point I didn't have enough experience to get an assistant winemaker kind of role or anything like that, and I did have some management experience. So.
Right.
I just kind of got lucky. The old Chapter 24 Vineyards tasting room in Dundee had closed. They were rebranding it as the Elite Tasting Room. I applied, I charmed them, I think, and right place, right time. Ended up opening this tasting room for a company that had really deep background, really, really rich background to it that I only learned after starting there. But I quickly began, snapping up as much knowledge and connecting myself with them as much as I could.
Right.
So Elite Wines in Rosenaro Estate, the two brands kind of go hand in hand. They farm vineyards in their entirety for the purpose of Rosenaro Estate. These tiny, tiny micro parcels where you're able to. This is folks from Burgundy and from Chile and from Spain coming together to think, all right, we need to find the Grand Cru of Oregon. And so they were finding incredible vineyards, doing incredibly detailed geological surveying in order to find out where in a 5-acre vineyard the best half of an acre was, or in a 20-acre vineyard where the best 3/4 of an acre were in that entire spot. But then they would, they would lease or buy the vineyard, farm the entire thing. Elite ended up being the outflow for a lot of the wine that didn't come from that tiny parcel.
Right. Whereas
Rosenaro were these hyper elite wines, hyper terroir wines they call them, that came from the other side. And I got to work with, in that time, it was a small company. In 5 years, I ended up being director of sales for the entire company, getting to sell all those Rosenaro wines too. And for a small company like that, you're out in the vineyard every time they're out in the vineyard. You're in the winery as these wines are being made and blended. I got to blend with Louis-Michel Liget-Belair, who was one of the founders and one of the consultants, one of the best producers of Pinot Noir in the entire globe, just by reputation alone, descendant of Napoleon, right?
It's crazy.
Getting just to be a fly on the wall while he's working his magic is incredible.
Right.
But little interactions with other greats from Burgundy, and then getting a chance to work with amazing winemaker Felipe Ramirez, the amazing geological consultant, geologist Pedro Parra from Chile, and then Natanya Welsh, incredible viticulturalist. And so working for them, it was what a dream. And it's true, even though I was on the business side and selling the wines, I had to have a really detailed understanding of what they were doing in order to sell these wines that are going for between $150 and $500 per bottle, right?
Right.
And I do, that was an incredible, lucky experience that I got to have with them.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. And so with that, like I said, hyper terroir, this understanding of wine globally, and then how we transition that to our unique region. We have so much of this comparison to regions like Burgundy. At the end of the day, the only thing we have in common is our longitude, right? It's a completely different geology here.
Right.
It's a completely different climate here. And so what they realize, the reason they're here is they have the opportunity to make wines in Oregon that are of equal quality as Grand Cru, Premier Cru, Burgundy, but they're going to be different wines. They're not trying to, that was one thing with Rosanero, they were never trying to recreate Burgundy. They were never proud if somebody said, oh, you know what, this could be confused for Echezot or something, right?
Right.
They were trying to give voice to the volcanic basalt of our region, to the ancient marine parcels of our region. And what I took away, even though now I'm doing, I learned everything, I followed them around, all the soil pits we looked at, all the farming we did was for the purpose of masterful Pinot Noir. I've taken that time that I spent in the vineyard with them, and now I'm using it for the white wines. And that's why I pay so much attention to the geology of the vineyards where either I grow or I buy fruit for Riesling, Chardonnay, Chenin Blanc. Rocks matter for all grapes, not just Pinot. So that was a huge takeaway. And my brand is very different from theirs, but fundamentally we're still talking about minimal intervention, a lot of care for the farming, a lot of care for the land, a lot of attention to detail and precision. And I think that those two things are parallel.
I couldn't agree more. Yes. Should we try your other wine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So today, like I mentioned, I do the myriad and the articulate, and I brought one myriad and then one articulate. So this Crystal Dagger Riesling is a single vineyard production from Eola Amity Hills AVA, from a volcanic parcel there. I love Eola Amity Hills in general. I love just this crunchy saline, these bright citrus qualities that show off in the Chardonnays as well as other varieties. But Riesling, I'm really diving into Riesling from Eola Amity. And this is a wine, I talk about Alsace. These days I'm lucky enough to make wine and experiment in multiple styles, but this is truly a wine that I made emulating some of those Alsace principles and traditions. Neutral barrels, this is fermented and aged in older neutral oak. I did batonnage once per month over the course of 11 months that this rested. It never finished malolactic fermentation. It did finish primary fermentation, so it's dry, but it still retains a great deal of that bright citrus and fresh fruit energy.
There's so much going on with that, and wow, an amazing expression of what can happen with a Riesling.
Yeah.
So first off, we got to just say, just right off the bat, this is not a sweet Riesling.
No.
No. So let's take that off. Not even a conversation piece there. And it's not, it is, I love the dryness of it. I love how there is just, like I said, there's just so much going on. I'm still trying to compute what is going on there.
It has a nice length to it. It goes on and on. I think this is also young. It's been in bottle less than a year, and this is a wine that can mature for several decades successfully and continue to change and become plumper and spicier and things. But even right now, I think it's doing a lot. It's bone dry, and I think that's one of the biggest things that is I fight this battle for Riesling when I'm showing Riesling to somebody. It's not uncommon for them to say oh, sorry, I don't like sweet wines, right? And I have to say wait, then give this one a chance, because this is like anything. Sweetness is a winemaking decision, So with this, you can allow Riesling to go bone dry. It's going to have really bright acidity. Many times that Riesling has sugar, it's to create the perception of balance. Sugar in a wine will make the acid seem a little bit lesser.
Right.
And so here I went completely dry, and rather than using sugar as that balancing act, building up, like I said, drumming up the leaves, building up the mouthfeel, allowing it to age and oxidize for almost a year allows you to draw out some of that exuberant fruit, some of that, some of that spice character from the barrel, and also, some of this herbaceousness that kind of comes later. And these are all pillars that you can build around the acidity, so it's not just searing,
Right.
And also, the acid range on this is not over the top. It's still in a range where it's not gonna.
It's not gonna kill the enamel off my teeth.
It's not gonna peel the enamel off your teeth. It's gonna. It's just gonna be great with scallops.
Yes, and it is. It's great. I'm still processing. I love this. This is amazing.
Thank you. I'm honored to hear it.
Yes.
And now that I'm making so much Riesling, still, I mean, I only make like 1,000 to 1,200 cases total, so that's a lot for me, but not a lot in the grand scheme of things. But when I get the chance to make like 4 different lots of Riesling, I can experiment with an off-dry wine, I can experiment with full malolactic fermentation, I can experiment with partial, and it's brilliant to see what this grape is capable of. So it's like, I don't even have a house style yet. I'm still in experimental mode. I'm pleased with all the things that are coming out of the winery, but maybe I'll just continue to make a range of things. We see a lot of success with that from producers like other Riesling producers in Willamette Valley, like Trisatum. I was just out there the other day.
Right.
And they're making incredible bone dry wines. They're making very balanced, beautiful wines that have some residual sugar in various degrees. And, you know, again, as an artist, why feel restrained by doing something in particular? I'd rather just do whatever I feel like every year when the wine and the plate, make that decision based on how the grapes are tasting and what the acid levels are like.
Yeah. You know, you've talked about the Oregon wine community, and you know, it's a theme that goes on and on throughout a lot of these interviews. But it was November 2022. Post salute event. You know, there was a group of us that got together.
Yeah.
And you got to talk with Cody Wright.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you're Satyr Fire?"
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It's still like unfolding now. It's like it's still just a dream. It's just I feel like I'm entranced and like how did I even get here, right? But it's the immersion, the forceful immersion, just like inserting myself in this industry, and then just like being the kind of person that just like talks to people. But I still to this day, I'm shocked sometimes when winemakers who I idolize are like, they recognize the wines or they give me like positive feedback and stuff like that. But yeah, we were at this event and like we were just talking. I was like picking his brain, like because like here's a winemaker that I love, and I was just like asking him. He had just received some amazing marks on some of his wines. I just tasted one of his Chardonnays recently that was beautiful, and I remember just like talking wine, asking him questions, and like, you know, from that he was like, I was like, you're asking a lot of questions, you know, you must make wine or something. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I got one in the fridge. Would you mind trying it? And we had been talking already for 20-30 minutes or something. Right. And I pull a bottle of my Chardonnay out of the fridge, and I go to pour it. He's like, "Oh, is that you? I've heard of your brand." You know, I was like, "What?" He's like, "I've heard good things." I was like, "You've heard of Satyr Fire?" You know, I was like, "That's awesome." And
that is awesome.
We tried the wine. He liked the wine. I was like, "Okay, great. Yeah, we're onto something." It's thrilling. I think when you start on a journey like this, you don't know how long it's going to take to get to your goals. You know. But we are steadily gaining more momentum, you know, selling more wine than ever, and interacting with more people than ever, getting more great feedback than ever from other people, and partnering and collaborating with more people all the time. So it's natural. And yeah, I'm a believer that even though I have these dreams, you know, I have the dream of my own vineyard, my farm, myself, the beautiful, I can close my eyes and picture the amazing small winery and tasting room where I get to invite people out, you know, amid the glade of the forest. And I think of like, how do we we're constantly working towards these things that all hopefully happen in the next, you know, 5, 10, 15 years as the brand escalates. But you have to enjoy the journey. I think I said this earlier, it was that, you know, we wouldn't be doing this if it was simply like, I'm trying to get to an end point. I look forward to, like, you know, when I'm 70, still making these wines and still being fulfilled on a daily basis. Hopefully every time I achieve a goal, there's another one ahead of it that it's time to get back to work and work towards that instead. Right. But yeah, it's just so nice to know that we live and work in a region where it's all possible. It's not the case for a lot of people in a lot of different places. So. Yeah, no, I agree. And I can only imagine walking into your tasting room and seeing a satyr, right? Yeah. Just like a little satyr mannequin, just with this little glass. I think that would be amazing. Absolutely, yeah. I think so too. I picture it like just being like a studio, right? Where my wife and I are able to like create art or write. I imagine that, like, you know, we just kind of have a bell on the door, and when somebody like walks in, they're like, I'm in the back of the room, like with an easel, just like working on a painting or something that's like maybe the next label or just like something for the wall. And like, you know, I ask them to like give me 1 second while I dry off my brush while I, you know, and then I'll come around the other side and start pouring some wines for them and take them on a little tour. I think that every interaction should be this just whimsical story. You know, I want to continue, like wine is such an incredible whimsical thing. It is. I think it goes so hand in hand with this like fantasy realm that I keep talking about.
Right.
It's surreal. It almost doesn't even make sense that here's a single ingredient, right? We grow these grapes out in the forest, and it's just rain and sunlight and great soil that ripens these things, and we have this human hand or satyr's guidance, out there in the vineyard to make things grow well, have our impact and change like the course of nature in certain ways while still abiding by it. But in the end, we're able to perform pure alchemy in the winery, where we just like take this one ingredient and let it go through a magical natural fermentation, and the end product is something like glistening that just it's
Exactly.
It's a story in itself. And so I think that it goes, us being able to just like pretend we're these druids, just like connecting with nature, is easy to do. When I drink a wine, I like to think of the vine is the conduit between the soil and the glass, and it's just like this is the spigot that we were able to tap into the earth and just like pour the pure essence of the soil into our glass from it.
Right.
It's a magical thing.
That is a very magical thing. And as you're talking about, you're doing the painting and the easel, and you recently became a dad.
That's right.
And in my head, I'm like, it's like 20 some odd years down the road, and you're still like in the back painting.
Yeah.
And your son is like helping out in the front tasting room.
Yeah, he's I
right?
no longer have to pour the wines. No.
But then, I can hear a conversation going, the son talking to the customers, and like, my dad started this, and, he's the artist, and they're like, oh, wow, it's amazing. And they're like, he's in the back room. Do you want to go meet him? And the customers were like, really? That'd be amazing.
And then it turns out I become like this like bearded hermit, and I just throw rocks when I come in. No. It's an incredible vision. With him, we're amazed. It's being a father is incredible. It's like I have this baby now, and all these things I've been working for my entire life, whether it was just like honing my drawing skills, or getting a piece of fiction published, or then becoming a winemaker and starting a brand, and selling my first bottle, and then getting scores later down the line. It's all been this like surreal journey that I felt like I was doing for myself, and then suddenly I've got this little kid in my hands. I'm like, no, I was doing this all for you. Yep. And you have a whole new set of priorities that you realize that is your purpose. And it's easy for me to, imagine the future, this beautiful scene of us working together, and him like learning winemaking from me, and being interested in the craft. In the end, we'll see if that's his interest, right? And I do very different things from my parents, and so I don't go into this expecting that he's just going to want to. I mean, how can you not? It's wine, the wine industry is incredible. But we'll see. But I love thinking about our family and what this means for us building our own lives. It's like, absolutely. Whether it's just like, we've got the dogs running around the property, we're hiking the property, in between seasons, we're working together to manage the vines when that's important to do. And trading off the responsibilities of pouring the wine for guests is, we do it in rotation between all three of us or something.
Right.
Yeah, it's incredible. But we'll see.
That would be incredible.
Speaking of him, he was born smack dab in the middle of harvest, which is one thing we did not intend to do, right? Any winemakers, they should be very careful with their actions in November and December, right?
Yes, they should.
Yeah, we knew we were going to start trying to have a baby and everything, but we didn't. We were like really, our plan was to like land this child in like February, but that didn't happen. He came September 27th. My wife went into labor on her due date, so he was just right there in the middle of harvest. It was 2023 vintage, great growing season up to a certain point, and then we had a week of rain, and then it spiked back up into 80 degrees after that week of rain. We had a great denouement to the harvest, but the baby was born on the Wednesday in the middle of that week of rain, so it was a good time for him to come right then. But we had picked, we were like 60% in, like the Assois and the Chardonnay and the Pinot Gris had all been picked already, but the Riesling and the Tempranillo was still out there, so it was just quite the ordeal having a newborn at that time. But it just makes that time of year more special. It was a challenge, that we overcame, and I think 23 was our best vintage of all time. So my amazing wife really she told me like, don't compromise the vintage. Like I'll take this, and like you just like stay out there. Right. It's still like it was a lot of long days, and I wanted to be there with him. But we made no compromises. In the 2023 wines are going to be amazing. But for me, it's also thinking about him. Yeah, I've got birth year wines. We're going to be investing in corks that are rated for 30 years to make sure that these wines are glistening when he comes of age. And,
that would be amazing.
Yeah, it has them. So
wow. And another amazing thing is just the spot that we're in.
Yeah.
Acorn to Oak.
Acorn to Oak. Yes.
I mean, when I read about, you heading this up, I was so excited for you.
Yeah.
Just to see another like chapter in like your journey and evolution. It's so just tell us a little bit about what is Acorn to Oak.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is a small business that I started back in September of this year. So we had a new business it was my day job at the time. That harvest and baby were also happening. So that was a pretty crazy time. But no, I felt this was an opportunity that I could not pass up. It came to me last summer as I was operating. I was the director of sales for Domaine Roy before this, and so. Just there was a lot of transitions and things going on. I had harvest looming, baby coming. There was things happening in that company, and I was approached with this idea for a tasting room that would be an extension of the wine studies department at Linfield University. So right. I am now a Linfield University staff member, which is still I've never worked in academia before, so it's still crazy to say that coming after 15 years of working in wine. But yes, this is a center for education as much as it is a wine tasting room. So it's right here on 3rd Street in McMinnville. I love, first of all, being a community member on 3rd Street now. I love being here in McMinnville. It just feels very much like one of these old world, like in Alsace, like you say, being a merchant that in the morning, unlocks your doors and then sweeps off the sidewalk and invites people in to browse your wares throughout the course of the day. It's very, that's a story in all in itself. But Linfield University has a budding wine studies program. It's only 6 years old. There's only 30-something students in it right now, and they really want this to be an immersive and varied and diverse program. It's part of the School of Business in a liberal arts university, and so they have courses and everything. There are winemaking courses, of course. There are viticulture courses. There's wine business. There's hospitality. There's geography classes of all having to do with wine. And now we've got a small business that I run just as if it were an Oregon tasting room, an Oregon wine bar. And so right now I've got, we have a list of partners who are all donors to the university, directly to student scholarships. There's now 26 different wineries from all across Oregon, as far south as Willamette Valley, as far north as Columbia Gorge, a great density right around in Willamette Valley. I contributed with Satyr Fire so that I could be able to sell my own wines here. But this really is fulfilling in so many ways. It's a great step for Satyr Fire because now I have a home base where I can host podcasts. I can host events. I can sell my wines through here. I can continue to strengthen my connection with my bond to other producers. Like I don't buy wine from distributors. I buy all the wines we sell here directly from the wineries, whether it's Furioso or Varnum Vintners. I go straight to Dom or Seiler and get those wines from them. So I have really rare things, special things, and we curate a menu, a new tasting flight every week. Sell wines by the glass. And from my perspective, I have all of my goals laid out on the table. Yes, of course, my craftsmanship is among the top there. But also, I'm very, I will be working in Willamette Valley for as long as I live. And so stewardship of our region is of the utmost importance to me, too. Right. And so this really fulfills that part of my journey because not only am I, stepping slightly closer to the inner circle of, I think, the growth of the Willamette Valley. But we're also, the students that, all of my employees here are wine study students from Linfield. And so the fact that I'm launching internships for sales and winemaking, that I get to train students, that I get to work closely and have a say with the wine studies department and that future there, I think really helps me feel as if I'm actively stewarding the wine region, helping to cultivate the next generation of wine professionals here, and just helping to determine the next generation of our story here in the valley. So I feel very lucky to be here. and I recommend anybody stop in not only to taste Satyr Fire, but to have a great Oregon wine experience from all the other offerings that we've got.
I can imagine, say, let's go another 20 years down the road. Your son is, exploring wine country, and, he's tasting a wine from somebody, and they're like, yeah, I was a student at Linfield, and Paul Johnson was, a big mentor to me and helped me out a lot. And I can see that conversation happening.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. That's an enchanting view.
Yeah.
I think, I look forward to that because, in my time here, there are so many people that I have to express gratitude towards for all they've taught me. I have no formal education in winemaking. I've got a couple of sommelier certifications and things like that are more on the wine business side, but all of my winemaking comes from just firsthand practice, and then the lessons that have been taught to me by peers that I respect. And everyone's so giving with their knowledge, and there are so many mentors that I could reference, people who have allowed me space or allowed me ideas to proceed. And to think, that not so long from now there might be people that have similar stories to share, but where I was the person helping them is what we're working towards. That's absolutely makes me feel really good.
Yeah, no, that is cool. So I have a few rapid fire questions.
Sure.
And then I'll reveal what the blind wine is.
Awesome.
Okay. Favorite artist to listen to during harvest?
Music artist, right? I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but favorite artist to listen to during harvest. I'm a big music guy. I think at the top of my mind right now is Arcade Fire, or actually no, you know what? Vampire Weekend just came out with a new album this week. And,
okay.
That's the top of my mind. But I always have something different playing. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Harvest is for music, blaring, but the vineyard work is for audiobooks. I listen to a lot of audiobooks while I'm out there pruning.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Your favorite indulgent food?
Favorite indulgent food? I'm a big pizza guy. New Haven, Connecticut is where I went to college, and I think of those pizzas extremely fondly. I would say that's probably my most indulgent food, although if I'm being super specific, the tarte flambée that we had in Alsace, France while we were there was life-changing. And it's a pizza concept, but different. Check out tarte flambée if you don't know what it is, but it's it's flatbread with cheese, lardon, sautéed onions. It is perfect, especially with the wines that I like. So.
Oh, that sounds amazing. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
Probably invisibility.
Okay. Harvest notes, are they digital, written, or just in your head?
Both. They're definitely digital. I have really, really detailed spreadsheets, but they almost all start with things that are scribbled down during harvest, or honestly put into my phone on notes during harvest. And so I'm very proactive about taking detailed notes at all times, getting things locked in however necessary, and then at the end of every day, never even hitting the bed until I get those things logged in the spreadsheets.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And then the last book you read, it could also be an audiobook.
It would have to be these days. I read maybe 1 or 2 paperbacks per year, but I go through a lot of audiobooks because of how busy I am. But last book I just finished reading was A Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
I go back and forth between literary fiction and sci-fi and fantasy. Currently reading The Expanse. Before Clockwork Orange, I read Watership Down. But Clockwork Orange, what a trip. It's an intense book.
I have never read the book. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for me to reveal the wine?
I would love to know who produced this. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to take any gander on vintage or anything?
I think it's a wine that's a few years old. Riesling can be difficult to tell because sometimes I taste a Riesling that's 15 years old and it doesn't taste more than a few years old to me because of how much freshness these wines preserve. So I would guess this is a 2013, somewhere between 2013 and 2015. I think it's a Willamette Valley wine.
Mm-hmm. So this is a 2011 Riesling from Alexana.
It's delicious. I love Alexana. And
yes,
their stuff's incredible. I was close. 2013, 2011, but another cool year.
Right.
Yeah, 11 was a cool vintage. This is singing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and and one of the reasons. Oh yeah, please do. The reason I brought it is, I know that you love Riesling, and we don't talk about older Riesling at all.
Right.
In Oregon. I mean,
when I was in France, I was being served 1967 Rieslings. Right. This is 2 years ago.
Right.
These wines can age incredibly. The acidity and sometimes sweetness really helps preserve the wine.
Right. It is amazing. Riesling doesn't get enough of. It just doesn't get talked about enough here in Oregon. And if it does get a topic, it doesn't, like older Rieslings, that's non-existent.
Right. Well, so little that produced, and the older bottles are just like sitting in people's cellars because they know that they're indefinite as far as how long they'll age.
Right.
Absolutely. I don't know when exactly it was. By the time I got into the industry, Riesling had a bad rap, right? And it was, I think, because, like anything, the wholesale market dictates the vast majority of people's perception of wine.
Right.
And I think that there was this perspective from growing regions like Germany that Americans liked sweet things. So what they would import over here were these like sweet wines, and then California producers were making very sweet, succulent Rieslings to please the American palate. And suddenly, the understanding of Riesling is it shifts is that like, oh, this is a sweet wine. But if you go to these regions, like they're drinking dry wines in Germany, they're drinking amazing dry wines in Alsace, and you realize, oh no, like there's finesse here, there's character here, but we just need to like look for it and understand the grape better, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you enjoyed.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really, really good wine.
Yeah, you're welcome. As we wrap up here, do you have any questions or anything for me?
I don't think so, other than just, my gratitude that I was able to sit here and chat with you about wines and Satyr Fire today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, AJ.
Yeah, thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining me on this flavorful voyage through the world of wine on the Weinnotes Podcast. I've been your host and guide, AJ Weinzettel, and it's been an absolute pleasure sharing these captivating stories with you. But alas, like the last sip of a fine vintage, our time together must end. But don't fret, my wine-loving friend. The cellar doors of the Weinnotes Podcast will always remain open, waiting for you to return and explore new conversations, stories, and musings from the captivating people behind the magical world of wine. Before you go, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and don't forget to leave a sparkling 5-star review to help spread the word. Until our glasses clink again, remember to savor life's moments and let the spirit of wine and camaraderie linger on your palate. Cheers, and as always, may your wine glass be full, your heart be light, and your journey